So you want to know what the hype about Binding 13 is about? Well, before you dive into Binding 13 and inevitably fall in love with Johnny Kavanagh, here's everything you need to know about how to survive this book and the Boys of Tommen series. Hi fiction fans, I'm Genevieve, and this is your spoiler-free prep guide to Chloe Walsh's Binding 13 in the entire Boys of Tommen series. So, let's get on to the video. I know you're probably daunted by this insane pile of books I have, and each one is over 400 pages, so here's everything you need to know. Alright, so the entire series is called the Boys of Tommen series, and the first book in that series is Binding 13. So this entire series is YA. It's sports romance with a lot of trauma, a lot of healing, and this book especially is a slow burn romance, but not really, because from the first moment he sees her, he wants her, but he's just denying it. In total, it has 603 pages, and this is one of the shortest books in the series. And I know what you're thinking, that's very overwhelming and a daunting task, but I read this for the first time on my Kindle and I flew through it. I read the first book in a little over a day, I think. Before you read any book in this series, please check the trigger warnings, because the subjects that are brought to light in this book are very heavy and can be triggering for a lot of people. In this specific book, there is bullying, abuse, trauma, mental health struggles. They come from a broken home. So if you're not ready for any of that, go ahead and put this book on the back burner or check out something else. So the two main characters in this book are Shannon Lynch and Johnny Kavanagh. Johnny is a rising rugby star, and Shannon is the shy 15-year-old girl who comes from a broken home and is severely guarded. So essentially, Shannon moves from her old school to Tommen, which is a private school, and on the first day, she meets Johnny Kavanagh. What's very important to note also is that this is character-driven, not plot-driven for the most part. The second book is more plot-driven than the first book, but the first, Binding 13, is essentially all character-driven. So if you're not into that, maybe skip out this series. There's a lot of healing, a lot of friendship, found family. It's an amazing book. It's not just romance, although the romance in this book, top-notch. I'm sure you've seen this book on TikTok. Why do people love it? These books have the most realistic portrayal of trauma and broken families that I've ever read about. And a lot of times it's a hard subject to grasp and very hard to read because it feels so real. The friend group that is created throughout these books is phenomenal and has a bond that cannot be broken. I mean, if you know, you know. What should you know before reading Binding 13? I think the most important thing to know here is that it mentions that Shannon is tiny and very short. It mentions that frequently, but it's very important to know that she's malnourished, and just know that it has a purpose, and you'll figure out what that purpose is later on in the book. Another thing to note, the pacing is a little slow at the beginning for, again, people that love plot-driven books, but because it's so character-driven, it really lets you get to know Shannon and Johnny before diving into what's actually happening and taking a look underneath the surface. Be prepared for all the emotional turmoil that you will go through when you read these books, especially the first one. And another huge thing to note, the cliffhanger on this book, have the second book near. All I gotta say, you better have that second book close. While the characters in these books are teenagers, the topics in this book are mature. So again, check the trigger warnings before reading this book. Also, there's one character in specific throughout this and the second book that really grinds my gears. If you know, you know. She's got a bob is all I'll say. If you're coming from TikTok, you probably want to know what the spice level is. First book, I'd give it 0.25 out of a scale of 5 spicy peppers. Whatever the scale they use, I forget. These books set place in Cork, Ireland, in a town called Ballylagan. I probably butchered that, I'm so sorry. I'm not Irish. But because it takes place in Ireland, there's a lot of Irish names that are very hard for an American to pronounce like myself. So I appreciated how in the book there is a pronunciation guide. I read it on my Kindle for the first time and it did not have a pronunciation guide, so let me read them for you. I'm going to say how I pronounced it and then how it's actually pronounced. First one. I pronounced it as Ife. It's pronounced Aoife. Oh my gosh, this one. Kyome is what I would say. Kiva. There's no V in that, guys. Eogan. Owen. Gardy. Nisa. NASA. Sabahad. Sive. Sean. Tag. Pretty close. So yes, check out that before reading, and there's also a glossary of a lot of Irish slang words that is very helpful for an American reading. Alright, now I'm going to move from the first book to the rest of the series. Alright, as previously mentioned, the first book in the series is Binding 13, which follows Johnny and Shannon. Directly after that book, we have Keeping 13, which also follows Johnny and Shannon. And just a side note, the covers do mean something. So, there are flames in this book. If you know, you know. Anyway, those are the first two books. The third book in this series is Saving Six, which follows Joey, Shannon's older brother, and his girlfriend Eva. Saving Six is then followed by Redeeming Six, which again follows Eva and Joey. Look at the cover. After you read it, it's kind of like a treat, but like a bittersweet treat to know what the covers mean and what they're referring to once you get there. Anyway, then we have the book Taming 7, which is the smallest book in the series. It kind of looks like a novella compared to the rest of these books. And I was very upset because the character in this book is one of my favorite characters throughout the whole entire series, and I was so upset he only gets this small of a book. There's 445 pages in this book, and it follows Gypsy and Claire. Gypsy is Johnny's best friend, and Claire is Shannon's best friend. So it's interesting, and it has a sneak peek of what happens after Keeping 13, the second book in the series. It takes place directly after that. As of right now, the final book in the series is Releasing 10. It also just so happens to be the thickest book in the series. Releasing 10 follows Lizzie and Huey. Huey is Claire's brother, and Lizzie is friends with Claire and Shannon. And Huey's also friends with Johnny and Gypsy. I just finished this book about a week ago. I'd say this is the most mature and has the heaviest topics. And please check the trigger warnings before reading this book. Again, the cover means something. I will also share with you guys the timeline of when all these books take place, because it's kind of confusing because they don't go sequential, they go out of order. So again, the order is 13, 13, 6, 6, 7, 10. Or Binding 13, Keeping 13, Saving 6, Redeeming 6, Taming 7, Releasing 10. I'm hoping Chloe announces a 7th book soon. If you're looking for a great book series with lots of books and that isn't planning on ending anytime soon, this book is great for you. If you love found family, this book is for you. If you love love, this book is for you. If you love the who did this to you trope, this book is for you. If you love touch her and you die, this book is for you. Oh my gosh, you know what I can do? I'll read you guys some of my quotes I highlighted throughout this book. So I've reread this book 4 times. I've been highlighting a bunch of things every time I reread it. I'm going to flip through this book and give you some quotes. I also have a couple quotes loaded up that I'll show you guys. This is my Notion, and on it I have this category called My Library, in which I have some books that I've read. Can you see I love this series? Then I have books and then quotes that came from that book. So Binding 13, go like this, and I have some little quotes underneath it, and same with Keeping 13. Right, I'm going to read the Binding 13 ones for you. In the beginning of this book, one of the things that Shannon says that really gives you an insight in her head is this quote, and she says, "I once read somewhere that we mature with damage, not with age. If that's the case, I was an old age pensioner in the emotional stakes." This was a quote from Johnny about Shannon, of course. "The minute I laid eyes on her, something had hit me hard in the chest, something unfamiliar and disconcerting. The more I tried to block her out, the more I sought her out, until I was seeking her out between every class." This is one of my favorite quotes of all time. "Shannon Lynch had the eyes the color of midnight blue that wouldn't stay the fuck out of my mind. At least that's the closest comparison I could find on the countless internet searches I had performed." He met her one time and was already searching to try to find the color of her eyes. Why ain't he real? This is a huge one that's very popular within the fandom. "I think I need you for keeps." For keeps? For keeps. I hated humans. They were such a disappointment. And to think, God switched dinosaurs for man. He must be raging. Here's the trope. Who did this to you? Now tell me who made you cry and I'll fix it. I wanted to fight all her battles. I wanted to give her all her smiles and make her laugh and snatch her away from the rest of the world and keep her all to myself. I just wanted her. For keeps. I just realized I haven't even read you guys the dedication in this book, so let's do that. "I would like to dedicate Binding 13 to anyone who's ever had a dream that they dared to chase, with insatiable hunger and drive. This story is for you." Words cannot express how much I love this book, the entire series. I mean, look right there on my nightstand, guys. I got 2 Binding 13 books just right there. If the size is intimidating to you, read it on the Kindle. Or, better yet, listen to the audiobook. There's an audiobook with really, really horrible Irish accents, but it's hilarious. It is hard to take the more serious parts serious, but the accent is hilarious to me and makes the funny parts that much more funny. If you guys would like me to go more in depth about the Boys of Tommen series and the whole timeline, as well as how the characters' relationships intermix with each other, let me know down in the comments and I can do that. Alright, and that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did, check out this Boys of Tommen playlist and check out this video that YouTube recommends for you.